Okay, we're ready. Good evening. Welcome to September 21st, Waste Management Committee. And to start off the meeting, we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If I could just have a moment of silence, please. Thank you. I think first on the agenda would be to the approval of the...
Public comment.
Oh, I'm sorry. You don't want to approve the minutes first. Any public comment, if any? No? Okay. So if I can have a approval of the minutes.
Are we doing Wednesday, July 8th, or Thursday, July 23rd?
Well, July 8th first, if we take them in date order, July.
Right, one at a time, or?
I make a motion to approve the minutes from Wednesday, July 8th.
Do I have a second on that?
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll abstain on that one.
And Wayne, you do abstain.
And July 23rd?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Abstain.
I was absent as well.
I was absent as well, so I guess I should have.
Yes.
Right. All right, so we'll start off the meeting. I hope we all got a copy of the minutes or the survey, and we had an opportunity to look at it before we got here anyway. I thought overall I think it was pretty much what I thought it would be, with the majority of the residents bringing 2 bags a week. Did anybody find anything that was surprising to them at all, or not in line with what they thought they would find?
I was surprised at of the 2 bags because the town I used to work at, we did a very similar survey, and it was basically 4 30-gallon bags per week. And I was surprised at how little bit. But if you look at the number of people in the household, over in Barnstable, there's a lot more people per household than there was here, where there was only 2. So of course you're going to be generating less per week on the as far as the average and the majority. So, right. But that was the only thing that kind of surprised me a little bit, as far as the numbers. But I mean, I think we as a committee, and I think the town are going to really going to learn a lot from this, because there's a lot to there's a lot to get out of this as far as any changes that need to be made, any issues that need to be addressed. There's a lot of good comments in this. I thought so. And it was really, it's going to be very educational, I think, to everybody. So.
Are we going to go through each section tonight, Mr. Chairman, or are we just going to make general comments about each section?
It may be the best way to work it. You start with each and work our way through it. Does that work for everybody here, or overall, Catherine, did you see anything that struck you? Or?
No, I don't think, as we've looked at some of the demographics before, so I don't think it was a surprise that most of the participants are 2-person households, and as Glenn said, probably don't generate as much trash as may have been the case in Barnstable, where there are more families. I don't know, and this might be a question for Tom Mayo, how, or Calliope, maybe with the Survey Monkey, if it's possible to look at the two of the questions to try to see, for the number of bags per trip, how does that correlate to how many trips the respondent makes? Because 2 bags right, isn't a lot, but if they're going multiple times a week, then that's maybe more similar to what you found in Barnstable Glen. So I don't know if it's possible to do that, and same with the households, to try to match up the households to the number of bags.
Right.
We use Woodville, so that's what, and I know you can, in a good way, manipulate the data to compare and contrast. I imagine IT could probably help out with that.
Right.
Who was that?
Your IT staff?
IT. I think Tom's actually very good with the,
Right.
with the survey. He was able to,
You export it to a Word doc,
Right.
Excel doc.
no, he was a great help. Just the fact that he was able to check for multiple,
Right.
responses. So it worked out well. I mean, it was a good way of policing, because I know there was a concern of everybody. So he really did a good job of making sure that what came in was as factual as it could be.
But a lot of good comments, right? I didn't have a chance to go through all of them. There were a lot.
I did the same thing, but it's hard. But overall, the comments were very good, and I think it gave us a reflection of how they use it, what they liked about the dump, the ease of use. I mean, I think it was pretty favorable overall. It's just a matter of how we get it to. How do we reduce trash? I guess that's our biggest concern, and reduce the cost of solid waste. So with that being said, should we start at the start of the Survey Monkey? What do you use? Do you want to start? The question number one: what do you use the Mashpee transfer station for? Check all that apply. The responses for those watching on television, if any, would be that trash was 97.38%, recycling, single stream and cardboard was 94%, bulk waste electronics was 61%, and yard waste, which is grass clippings and leaves, was 42%. So that's why they come. Any comment on that?
Yeah, I think, Mr. Chairman, that the recycling number, I was surprised by how high it was. Almost, the responses of trash were 97%. The 94% is very high. Obviously, people in this town recycle. They recycle a lot, and it's important to them. And the comments bear that out as well.
Right. I would agree.
Is that statistically true with our recycling rate, which I thought was like 22-24%?
I actually did bring the update on the recycling numbers, but I didn't do a calc. It's been in the mid-20s. I don't think that's changed.
So we're doing very well.
But the question I have is, now, are you using DEP's recycling rate as far as per capita in the town versus tonnage in the transfer station?
I haven't looked at the rate on the website. I'm not sure how out of date the DEP website is. If they've
report for many years, I think it's been like 6 years, right?
We still report as part of the grant program, but I'm not sure that they're calculating recycling rates anymore. But if you just look at, I guess, the trash tonnage versus the general recyclables, you can come up with a number. And then you'd have to factor in some of the bulky waste, the yard waste.
I would question your number of 20%, because this number of the 1,200 people that filled this out, 1,296, 1,296, 1,221 say they recycle. Now, that's an amazing number, and we need to admit that's an amazing number and maybe rethink our numbers for recycling for the town and how we get those numbers. And also, I just want to thank the people that did fill this out, because a lot of people took the time to fill this out, even older people who had to find a computer at the library or something to fill this out. So I think it's an incredible number. It should be kudos to the town and kudos to our DPW for the amount of recycling done according to this survey.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, the numbers look very good.
Yeah, I guess I would point out that this doesn't speak at all to how much recycling is done. It just simply says that the number of people who use the facility to recycle is similar to the number of people who use it for trash. I mean, that doesn't speak at all to the amount of recycling anybody does. So I don't think we want to misinterpret what we're reading here. I mean, that's always the problem when we analyze or attempt to analyze non-scientific surveys as opposed to sort of accurate representations of what's happening. I mean, the numbers are very easy to determine in terms of what our recycling rate is. All you have to do is determine what our MSW is, determine what our recycling tonnage is, and compare the two. And those numbers equate to what Catherine has described, somewhere in the 20 to 30% range. So that's our recycling rate.
Right, but I always hear that people don't recycle enough or aren't recycling. This shows me that people are recycling.
Well, it doesn't.
They say they are.
Well, they say they are, absolutely.
They say they use the facility to recycle. It doesn't at all say that they're all recycling or that they're recycling anywhere near as much as they could or should. And I think it's
Well, that's
important.
a different issue, isn't it?
Well, that's sure.
Okay.
But you're suggesting that people are recycling at a high rate, and this doesn't say that.
It does say that. 94% of the people surveyed are recycling. Absolutely.
No, it's
Okay, if I may, I agree with both you and Calliope, Richard. It doesn't address the tonnage.
It does not.
I recycle. I don't recycle much. I almost exclusively use the cardboard bin. I save everything cardboard and put it all in there. The rest of my waste goes into, or over the wall, if you want to say that. I don't separate bottles, cans, paper goods, and use the single stream as effectively as I've learned it is supposed to be used since I got involved with this committee. The people that answered the 94% that responded to this are like me. They go to one station, throw some stuff in there, and probably throw the bulk of their waste over the wall in the building.
So
That said, going over this and discussing it with some other folks before tonight's meeting, the information that we take from this is all valuable. We just have to be objective in how we read it. Read the numbers, the number of people that responded, look at the data, and come to the conclusion that we can use this data as we move forward to make decisions on what we're going to recommend to the town and to the Board of Selectmen with the findings that we've had through our discussions. And so I'd say let's be very open-minded about as we go forward and be honest with some of the responses to the survey, because there's value in the answers to every question, including the last question.
Right.
Thank you.
I guess,
Actually, we'll hand out, excuse me 1 minute, these are the
thank you.
updated tonnage numbers. So this is your general recyclables and your trash going back to 2009. So I just did a quick calculation, and again, not taking into consideration bulky waste and yard waste, just using these numbers from last year, our recycling rate was actually 19%.
I'm sorry,
19% for last year, just using these numbers that I'm handing out to you.
if I could just follow up on your issue that you just brought up. Am I to interpret that to mean that, because they say the data is only as good as the input, are you wondering whether or not the input is valid on the basis that somebody thought they were potentially recycling when they weren't to the extent that they should have been?
My premise on this is that anybody that stops at the single stream
Right.
containers considers themselves recycling. And therefore, what this would tell me is that 94% of the people that responded to the survey that are regular users of the transfer station stop at one of those containers and throw something in and go to the actual building and throw the rest of their waste in there. They may, like myself, bring in small bundle of cardboard and say, well, I know there's a special place in the recycling stream for this, and I put it in there, and I've got 5 bags of trash that I throw into the container. So I'm recycling 100% of the time that I go into the transfer station, but I'm only putting in 3 pounds of cardboard and 60 pounds of waste.
Okay.
So you're not recycling 85% of what you throw away?
I am not recycling 85% of what I throw away.
But that wasn't the question.
No, that wasn't the question.
The question was, and I agree with your premise, and yours too, Richard, that it doesn't address the tonnage issue and things like this.
Yeah.
But the people that fill this out believe they are recycling. Yes.
Recycling.
And I'll conclude by saying that one of our objectives from the beginning of this group is to educate. And I think this is, question number 1 clearly tells us that we need to do a more complete job or evaluate how we're educating our users of the transfer station and continue to press, if we're going to go in this direction, to continue the use of the transfer station as it is. We've got to educate people on how to properly use it, how to properly use single stream, and get them to participate in the practice, to up the tonnage
So,
there and reduce
on the same
tonnage
question,
on the other side.
on the same question, so I'll use you as an example. So you currently, your practice is still the same. You go to the cardboard and you don't recycle the majority of your solid.
Correct.
You ever been a member on this committee for what, 4 months now?
About that, yes.
And if you don't do it, how much more education is it going to take for you to do it?
Well, that's what I would have to do.
I'm trying to get a gauge here.
I have to educate, and this is a question that I wrestle with. I have to educate my household and change the way we handle our waste in my household. And I have 4 opponents to my efforts to recycle. And so I know how difficult it is, and I'm wrestling with how do I educate my kids and my spouse on proper recycling so we can utilize the facility to its intended capacity. If I could figure out how to get them to do it, then I'd be more effective in trying to educate the town.
Just as an aside, from an education perspective, that's a wheel you don't have to invent. It's already been invented, and it's competition. And Paul Tilton, who came to speak before us, he would probably agree. He's done this before, and other people have done it. And there's actually curricula based around the model where you incentivize your household to recycle, and it's a competition-based model. So the more you recycle, compost, and then upcycle, etc., then you get a certain amount of whatever it is to incentivize people. A glass of wine, a walk with the dog, whatever it is, So but just to, backpedal.
Okay.
You don't have to invent the wheel. It's been invented for you, and there's a multiplicity of ways that you can engage the household that are fun, and it doesn't have to be the stick. It can be the carrot.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I'd certainly embrace that, and the things are coming together in terms of where I see we're going as a town, and waste management practices and so forth, and if I can change the habits in my household and embrace what we need to do for the town, taking practices that have worked elsewhere, whether it's just in the house, and apply them to the whole community at large.
Well,
I'm
looks like
all for it.
We got to work that out for us if that's.
I'm sure yes, we do.
That's the
clean that up in
threshold.
one night.
Yeah.
That's,
One thing, I just got a question for Catherine. Now, you just said, as far as, okay, these numbers right here are just for cardboard, single stream, and rigid plastic. Or not rigid plastic, but just for the recycling line.
Yes.
Do you have the numbers that you reported to DEP as far as yard waste, all the rest of the recyclables that are counted, including televisions, refrigerators, AC units, propane tanks, mattresses, all that
I
stuff,
can
that's all
bring-
recyclables?
I can certainly bring that to the next meeting, yes.
Okay,
Like,
'cause-
as I said,
because-
right, the 19%
Because
is
that
only
gives you,
general.
that gives us the accurate number as far as what goes in the gate and what the percentage on recycling is. Because if you look at those leaf piles out back, what was generated in the last year is probably another 300 or 400 ton out back. And that would make this number look a lot more favorable, is what I'm trying to say, as far as the total. I mean, if we're gonna do it, let's get it all, let's get the whole total. That's the only point I'm trying to make.
I think those percentages were published on a sign at the entrance to the transfer station for years, so you didn't, as a resident and when you're using the transfer station, didn't need to access DEP documents to know the recycling percentage for the town of Mashpee. I remember them.
We had
Okay, well-
them posted, right, again, as to try to increase the rate. So we posted the rate, and as I think you said, Clyde, we tried to, challenge people to increase the rate. So we did have them up for quite a time. Right.
Okay, and also, that I think the committee and the residents need to know that when DEP puts out their numbers, it's per capita. That includes your Southports, all your multifamily residents, every person in town. That's how they come up with their recycling rates. And to try to get numbers from if Southport or any of these other condominium complexes or whatever like that recycle, and trying to get the numbers from their haulers, when I was on the Board of Health, it was pretty impossible, because they just won't give it to you, and you're trying to get that, so you're trying to make your numbers look good, and you can't get it, and I'm not even sure if a lot of those places even offer the recycling.
Glenn,
They do
just
it,
to
so.
address that, and again, I wouldn't necessarily look just at the DEP numbers, but the numbers that I report for the town is only what's collected at the
Right.
transfer station.
Right.
I don't include the waste collected curbside by haulers, because I don't have an accurate
Right, and they won't give it to you, 'cause-
So can I ask, Catherine, you might know off the top of your head, so 25%, if you have 25% of your total waste as being recyclables, is that low?
Yes.
It is.
Yes.
What is there an average, a national average?
I think the national is probably low 30s.
It's moved up, it's in the mid-30s at this point
Right,
nationally.
okay. Right, and obviously, it varies from
So
state to state.
roughly by 10% or so, it's Tom. So,
Tom, can I just point out one thing that maybe, I think the participation on the survey was great. I think most surveys, and again, Calliope, Richard, you might know better, 10% is what is considered good.
I'm sorry, what is good?
10%. So if we look at just the sticker holders, and I know we had other people besides the annual permits completing the survey, but if we looked at just that permit number, it's about a third of the people using the transfer station responded.
That's a real good turnout, it's real good.
So,
Yeah, no, it's great. Very good. So, should we move on? Go with that. Question number 2, how often do you use the Mashpee transfer station? I'll go at less than one trip per month was 1.5%. One trip per month was almost 2%, 2.95. One trip every 2 weeks, 14.26%. And the highest number was one trip per week, 49.46%. Almost 50% is one trip per week. Trips per week, 23.72. 3 trips or more per week, 4.96%, and other was 3. So the highest responded was the one trip per week, and the second highest to that was 2 trips per week, which totaled almost 80% of the amount of trash trips. So that was pretty good. Pretty accurate. I think that's what I thought. I think I'm, for the most part, one trip per week. I might hit a second time during the summer, but pretty consistent. And I might, in the winter, go once every other week, so I think that might average it out. Any comments?
2% of snow this year.
What was,
No, we need to add snow to our recycling rates. It's going to be a rough winter. I would have gone about 5 times a week last year.
As far as the comments are concerned, Tom, I thought they were interesting too from that standpoint. A lot of summer residents
yes.
just using the transfer station during the summer. A lot of folks taking advantage of that
How fortunate
sticker for
are
the
we?
summertime. Yeah, really.
No.
I was surprised at how many people are using the transfer station twice a week, actually. I wouldn't have expected that large a number. I guess on the one hand, it indicates that there's a lot of trash being produced by a fairly small number, and when you look at the demographics and the size of our households, that's an indicator to me that that they're not producing as much recycling as they are MSW or trash. But, you know, again, it's a little hard to discern too much that's specific in these until you get right down and you actually have conversations with people. One of the things that Barnstable did, which was helpful, was to go through a waste characterization study and actually have someone come to the facility and literally take, in a random way, bags from people who came through, and they went through the baggage, and they identified what was recyclable, what was trash, and it was quite very, very.
Voluntary, right?
It was voluntary, absolutely. Yeah, nobody was forced to expose their trash that didn't want to. And so, as a result of that, it was probably skewed a little bit. Probably people thought they were better recyclers if they handed over their trash to be looked at. And so we set up tables and went through all the trash and all the recyclables. And our people had a very poor recycling rate. There was still a substantial number of people who were commingling their recyclables with their trash, and there might be some value in getting a waste characterization study done. Sometimes DEP will provide the grants to do that for you.
Right. In your March meeting packet, we actually had included a copy of the study results from Barnstable. I did ask DEP that particular grant they were no longer offering, but it's something if the town were interested, we do have the company that did perform it.
Yeah, it's a little bit more of a scientific methodology for determining what's going into your trash, rather than, you know, people. Nobody wants to say.
If it's scientific, it's just digging into the bags.
But when I say scientific, I mean sort of accurate, as opposed to what someone represents as whether they're recyclers or not. Everybody likes to think they're recycling everything they can. Anytime you look at this issue, people say, I recycle as much as I can.
I had a conversation, it was one night here, and I can't remember who it was. I do remember, Mrs. Camacho. And we had a conversation about styrofoam. You know, your meat packing and the styrofoam that comes with the meat. And my wife and I, you know, I'd wash it and I'd throw it in the waste so I wouldn't have an odor in my waste. My wife says, that's recyclable. And I said, well, no, it's not, because this food spoils. You throw it in the waste. Well, no, it has to be recycled. So went back and forth, and I finally asked somebody who was a big recycler. They said, no, that's recyclable. And I said, well, no, I've been told totally opposite. It's contaminated by food. It goes into solid waste.
You could fill a football stadium before you get a ton.
It's because it's styrofoam that it's not recyclable. Right. If it was the plastic.
But it says, it's stamped on it, that says recyclable.
Right.
So it's very confusing.
That's what's good, that's
Barnstable did a one-day styrofoam take back.
You can recycle styrofoam. It's very cost prohibitive because
it's not a commodity item, so there's like one company in Rhode Island that's willing to take it, and you have to like bail it.
So,
well, it's more of an environmental issue, I thought, because we're trying to protect the environment, and I can't see where styrofoam is very healthy for the environment.
Right, but because it's not a commodity item, it's difficult to get rid of.
I suppose, to me it is. But
it's not too.
But it's combustible, and that's the good thing. So we're in good shape with that. All right, move on. No more questions on the comments or anything of that. So question number 3. On average, how many bags of trash does your household dispose of per trip? Check all that apply. It's a long list, so I don't know if I should go through. I'll do the best I can to go through it. I wish I could. Was this about a 15-pound bag? I'm not sure. It's a little bit bigger. About that, isn't it?
It's basically the bag that fits under your sink. It's the
Your-
white,
your-
the
your
white.
kitchen.
That was the
The white
30.
trash bag.
No, the kitchen bag.
So the 15 is about-
The 30 is the big green, the big green
So the
bag.
15 is about this.
No, a 15 is a kitchen bag, so
Tall kitchen
probably
bag.
Right.
the height of the table.
All right, so
Yeah.
give you an
And then a
idea, so
barrel.
probably that big would be a kitchen bag, a standard under the sink barrel. Okay,
A little bit bigger.
yep, okay. So, just to give everybody an idea, so that's our basis, we'll work off of that being a 15, and the 30 would be a double of that size, give everybody an idea.
Yeah, 3 5-gallon buckets.
Is a 15-gallon.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
big, it's bigger than that, Tom.
Right,
A-
okay.
A kitchen bag fits in about a 30-inch kitchen wastebasket.
3 5-gallon buckets.
And your 30-gallon bag is the bag
Oh,
that
we
fits
could go get one.
into a full trash barrel.
Right,
So by
right, if we double a kitchens under the
bag,
sink
you've got what fits
barrel.
into a
Right.
full-size rubbish barrel.
Gotcha. So, so this is per trip to the transfer station, how many bags do you bring? First response was, 1 15-gallon bag, 2.56%. 2 15-gallon bags, I'm sorry, I messed that up. 1 15-gallon bag, 11.71. 2 15-gallon bags, 21% of the people. 3 15-gallon standard kitchen bags, 14% of the people who responded. And 4 15-gallon standard bags was 10%. So that was the majority, and on the number 5 15-gallon bags was 8%. So, looks like 2, 3, 4, and 5 were the highest amounts, with 21%, 14%, 10%, 8%. And then it dwindles from there. More than 5-gallon bags, 2.3%. 1 30-gallon bag, which is a trash barrel size, almost 14%. 2 30-gallon bags, 13%. So a lot of trash there. And 3 30-gallon bags, 6.5% roughly. 4 30-gallon bags, 2%. And 5 30-gallon bags, 1.5%. Well, that's a lot. So I guess I'm a little surprised on the amount of bags and the size of bags. I would have thought it would have been one 30-gallon bag would have been closer to what I would have thought would have been the average. Maybe it is when you put the 2 15-gallons, which is 21%, and 13% for one. It would have given you 34%. So it probably would be the closest amount, 30 gallons of trash.
I would love to see that compared with the ages, because when you look at the demographic of the ages of people that participated in the study, it's a much older population, which theoretically would generate less trash because they don't have young children, maybe, unless they're grandparents, of course, that sort of thing. With the trash that people talk about generating lots of waste, like diapers and that kind of thing. I would love to see that, again, what's your age, against how much trash you throw away, against how many trips to the transfer station you use. And that'd be very telling.
Well, I think that goes along with just what you were saying as far as the age and 2 people per household, as far as the number of the 15-gallon bags, because that's pretty much what people are going to use. I mean, it's my wife and myself at the house, and that's what we bring to the transfer station. It might be 1, might be 2 a week, 15-gallon, you know?
Well-
I mean, if we have a party or, the kids come down and the grandkids come over or whatever like that, then it might be 130 after the weekend or something, but,
But on the same,
like you're saying, it's pretty consistent right there.
yeah, and when you say that, you bring up the age, but what was your age, which comes up next. So you want to know what the age group would be. More than almost 60% of the respondents to this survey were between the age of 55 and 74.
Right.
More like
So-
75%, actually.
What?
It's
Yes,
more like 75%.
age 55 and above.
Yeah, 55 and above, I just
A lot of older people
read.
throwing away
So
a lot.
55 and, right, is it, so I think that's pretty, you're saying two people felt older, but most of the people that responded were older.
Right.
That's exactly what I said.
Right.
I have a household of 4 people and a couple animals. We throw away less than a 15-gallon bag of trash. And I am not an avid, for the record, obviously. I mean, I have teenagers just throwing stuff in the trash all the time, and I'm not going to be the person that unpacks their trash. God knows I don't want to know what's in there all the time. So if I see something in there, I oftentimes will let it go. Most of the time, unless it's something obvious like a cereal box. And we're generating one 15-gallon kitchen bag a week. And I am honestly not a hardcore recycler. I don't recycle in the bathroom. I don't recycle in the bedroom. Absolutely not. I don't want to get involved in that kind of waste. And I let things slide all the time. I'm like, it's going to get incinerated at CMS. It's going to turn into electricity. So, it's like me washing a peanut butter jar, commingling with teenager waste, or letting it go into the trash. So I find the age, I'm assuming a lot of these people don't have a lot of people in their household, just looking at the statistics of the town and the survey. I thought it was a lot of trash for when you look at the amount of people that participated in their age, personally.
Actually, that would make sense, frankly, because I think as much as we're working on our young people generally to be more aware of recycling, some of our seniors are more recalcitrant, not willing to change as much. It's more of a hassle to recycle for them. So, that may explain why we're seeing this. On the other hand, in communities where they do go to a unit-based pricing system, it's the seniors who have the greatest opportunity to save. Rather than paying that flat fee, they do find that when they go to the effort and they educate themselves about recycling and they begin to do a better job with recycling, because they're ultimately producing less trash than a larger family, they're the ones who can see the greatest savings under a unit-based or pay-as-you-throw program. So it's sort of interesting and ironic, but I think that's what we're seeing in other communities.
Did we jump right to what is your age?
Yes.
Do you want me to start with that, or do you want me to read that fully? I will. Question number 4, what is your age? So,
Sorry, that was me.
18 to
page.
24, we had no respondents. 25 to 34, we had 3%. 25 to 44, we had 6.7%. 45 to 54, 16%. 55 to 64, 28.69%. 66 to 74 was 30.79%, the highest respondents. And 75 plus, good show up, 14.70%. So I think that's a pretty good response. Most of them, like you say, were the older population, myself included. Any discussion on that? I think we pretty much covered that.
It shows on the next page.
Number 5, how many members in your family based residence, your Mashpee family residence? Number 1 was 11.3%. Number 2, 55.93, so it's 56%. Number 3 is, which is 14.40%, almost 14.5. Number 4, 11.5%, and number 5, 6.75%. So as, I think we all thought the same thing. Most of the residents have 2 people living in them.
Well, most of the people that responded were 55 to 74.
Correct,
And obviously, they can only have 2 people in their family.
correct. Correct.
This demographic information actually exceeded what the U.S. Census had for our community, which looks at the entire community. And the numbers for 1, 2, and 3 households, based on the most recent U.S. Census, was about 81, almost 82%. And here, if you add 1, 2, and 3-person households, it's 80, if I'm not mistaken here, 84, what are we?
That's right, about 80%. Pretty close, right?
Let's see. No, well, about 83, I think, 83 or 84%. So no, it's close, but it's a little bit higher. So my point is that the folks who use a transfer station, there's a slightly larger grouping of people in smaller household size for our transfer station users than the population at large. It's close. I'm not saying it's far off, but if I'm reading it correctly, there's a little bit more. Slightly larger percentage of 3-person households that use our transfer station than is the case across the whole community, demographically speaking. But it's pretty close, I guess is the point.
Okay. Anybody have anything further to add on that issue? Okay. We'll move on. Question number 6. What is your Mashpee residence? Basically, how long do you stay in your house during the in Mashpee, year-round or whatever? Year-round, almost 72%, 71.79% were year-round residents. 6 to 12 months is 8.78, so almost 9% on that. 3 to 6 months, 13.5%. Less than 3 months, 5.5%. And visitor was almost non-existent,
4 people.
3%.
4 people.
4, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Passing through.
Not much, right. We can bring it down to people.
72% residents, 28% snowbirds.
Of the people responding,
Of
so.
the people. Respondents, right.
Right.
Well, it was nice that people took the opportunity to respond. 3 to 6 months at 174 respondents on that.
Well, you put the survey out when they're still here.
Yeah, no, it was a good time to do it. Well, it was good to have their input, too. Any input? Question number 6, no? All right, we'll move to question number 7. Are you satisfied with the current operation of the Mashpee transfer station? Yes, the response was 90.23%, which was a yes. No, 7.13%. No opinion, 2.64%. So, and the comments were pretty good. They're very similar. They found the staff very helpful, easy to navigate. So I thought they actually spoke very well for the people that employed there and helped. I mean,
Well, and I'd like to, that was the survey question that elicited the most comments.
yeah.
544 comments on it. I haven't had a chance to read all 544 of them, but of all the questions that were given, of the 7 questions, I would go through and tabulate 2, 3, or 4 of the most frequent comments in here and try to glean as much as I can out of that, because you're going to get, just from going through it quickly, half the people seem to say it's just fine.
Yeah.
Like it the way it is, in one way, shape, or form. The other half, which I'm more interested in, is to see what they would say, either negative about the current transfer station and/or what they might do better, what those are the responses that are going to tell us give us a better idea of what the 1,300 people feel is good about this transfer station, or what can be done to improve. And that's something that we may want to revisit and come back at our next meeting and come up with some numbers on it to see what can be done and what direction we can go. That was the purpose of the survey.
I think, I agree with you 100%. One thing that is, and I'm looking at this is from a manager's standpoint or whatever, is that, to me, this is an excellent tool for the town to look at. Catherine, Rodney, I mean, this is a great tool because there's a lot of good comments in here as far as, how the personnel are treated, how the people are treated, what they feel is needed, what they see out there. And in this day and age, everybody, the accountability has to be there, and the general contractor out there is working for the town. He's a representative from the town. He's working for you, Catherine, I believe the answer to you. But I mean, to me, this is a very good tool to say, okay, when it comes time for contract negotiations or whatever like that, say, listen, just so you're aware, we're going to give you a copy of the survey, and these are your people out there. This is what, this is how people are being treated, and also it gives the town a chance to look at and say, okay, well, this, like you said, there's a number of people saying, geez, it would really be a good idea to get a swap shop out there because you can defer a lot of tonnage. Geez, I see a lot of people throwing stuff in the trash that's not supposed to be going there. Okay, well, we need to have a talk with a contractor. You know what I mean? And it's to me, is for looking at it from a manager's standpoint. To me, this is a great tool.
Yeah.
The
comments.
Whichever way we go. I mean, if we now or in the future we decide to go to pay-as-you-throw or whatever like that, to me, this is a great tool that if we're going to have the transfer station, how it's being run, this is what we need to know. You know what I mean? And as far as, I see a lot of stuff in here as far as people letting us know, okay, there's a lot of tonnage in there that's going in there that's not supposed to be going in there too. And which is very good too, because this is what we're trying to do. Ultimately, we're trying to cut this stuff down. It's great that, recycle, and when you go in, you get rid of all your recyclables. But if Joe Blow comes behind you and he's throwing C&D, yard waste, concrete, brick, and everything else like that, well, the 50 cars before him, you just blew right out of the water.
So your work was for nothing, right?
But, it's...
Could you stand up the mic? We're on television tonight, so this is a big opportunity. So, just give your name and address, please.
Dick Vigent, 157 Leisure Green, Southport. My question, at least my first question, is what was the experience when I moved to Mashpee? We weren't on the single stream on that. Everything split off. What was the experience of the board and in fact the town? I know what caused them to move on this thing. The cost was a big factor, obviously. But what was the experience in dealing with the residents with regard to the transfer station that was there? We used to simply split garbage one, paper, and then glass and
Separating, right, separate. That was actually I think Catherine moved that, that was probably 3 years ago, 4 years.
Actually, it was the end of 2009, and it was in response to, efforts to try to increase recycling, and the number one complaint that we heard from users was that they had to separate their recycling into, I think, 9 different materials. And so, and that was why they weren't recycling. So in an effort to try to increase the recycling, we figured single stream makes it very easy. Everything goes into one bin instead of having to separate into the 9.
But as environmentally, it's counterproductive.
No, it actually goes to a facility that then separates it. And if you look at the statistics for those facilities, they estimate that 95% of what goes in as single stream is recycled. So it's mechanically sorted at where we bring it to. So they sort it into the different.
I had problem. I almost wish I could actually see the process.
It's, if you Google it, there are a lot of YouTube videos. We've done some site visits to different facilities. So it is, we collect single stream, but then it does go to
A sorter.
a sorter.
Right. They use magnets, air. It's amazing.
I can
Right.
certainly see the difference between splitting paper and, say, cans, aluminum, and plastic, but I have difficulty putting that into one single stream, paper particularly. I can't see how that can be recycled.
It is.
Presumably it is?
It is? Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. Who is the contractor who generally picks up the rest of for the transfer station, for the garbage? Who do we use as a contractor for that?
We have a contract with New Bedford Waste for the trash.
I'm sorry?
New Bedford Waste Services is,
All right. All right, you're taking the wind out of the sails, so I appreciate it.
Right. But it was to increase, and it did go up when you went to single stream.
It
The
did.
recyclables
It
went up.
took a year or two, but I think it went up 17 or 18%.
Which is, I think that's a pretty good return for your efforts,
Some of those figures are the people that say that they recycle in this.
There you
All
go.
those figures are right there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you for your input.
That's good, thank you.
Welcome.
So generally, we find that people are very satisfied with the way the transfer station is run right now.
Yeah, some of the comments I saw were longer work hour, what could be open earlier or later, or, different days. But overall, it was favorable, the ease of use. They thought that it was laid out well, and that there were times where I didn't think it was laid out. Remember when we went from parallel to the diagonal, and I thought backing into the traffic, but it seemed people have gotten used to it, and there were people initially that would jump the curb, and that seems to be overcome. So it's much better.
I was relatively surprised about how many people interpreted this question to mean recycling or pay-as-you-throw. Because if I was not involved in the industry I'm involved in, I would imagine that to answer this question, it had to do with purely parking, ease of use, staff. And I was pretty surprised in reading the comments. I didn't read all 500 plus. I perused. And I was rather surprised about how many people interpreted this to mean pay-as-you-throw or lack of pay, or
Status quo.
or status quo. I thought that was pretty overwhelming, actually, that people would consider the operation of the transfer station to mean, do you want pay-as-you-throw or do you not want pay-as-you-throw? Which seems to be, a lot of the answers reflect that interpretation. I would think, they want to know how easy it is to use, or can I get mulch if I want it, or have I ever gotten into a fender bender while trying to deal with my bulky waste or whatever, rigid plastic or something. So I just thought that was kind of interesting. It either shows that the people that, well, probably could show a lot of different things, but people were interested in their comments. A lot of people put comments, like has been pointed out, but what that meant to me was that there's some investment in having their voices be heard, which when we were having the vote to add the comments, I was pretty sure that people wanted to have some ownership of this question, and in fact it's true. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of comments. People want to be involved. They want their voice heard.
People are very involved in this. This was a very, very hot subject
Right.
for the past years. And that's why this committee was started. So we've done an awful lot of work here.
Right, so for a year, I sat in the basement of this town building talking about recycling and doing mandatory recycling. And a couple times a month, nobody came to those meetings. We were crickets in the room. So I was kind of fascinated about how many people are now interested in recycling. And it heartens makes me feel excited that people are wanting to be part of the dialogue about solid waste, because usually you're alone in the room.
I think the comments, and I think every comment tells a story. I've read all the comments 3 times.
Wow.
And I counted something as well. You're right about people wanting to know, taking this pay as you throw, not pay as you throw. And I counted 218 comments to keep the system in this town the way that it is. I counted 80 comments who would endorse pay as you throw. So people are very concerned about it. And I think people are concerned about recycling. I think they speak highly of you, Catherine, for the work you've done on recycling. People are very enthusiastic about it, believe it needs to be done, and it's being well received in the town. What I don't like is the idea of forcing people to recycle, mandatory recycling, or making people do things that they don't want to do. It's not their choice to do. So I would, those comments take me aback a little bit. But it's clear to me that, I've been sitting here for 9 months, and my views have been, for me, validated by the fact that most people don't want to change in our system.
That's the nice thing about pay as you throw. They don't have to change. People that don't want to change, they don't have to.
Oh, they absolutely have to change. They have to change how they pay for it, how it affects them.
So they're going to have to change their behavior anyway, because I think from a financial standpoint, I think you might have more input on that, because that's what your position is on this committee, is that it affects the town financially. So the people that want to continue to operate the way that they've always operated, and going forward they want to do the same thing, they're absolutely able to do the things. They have to change the color of their bag. Most other things, that's not like an enormous burden when you compare the cost of the savings to the town. That's not why I'm here. I'm here to talk about recycling, solid waste, composting. People can get rid of 85% of what they throw away if they're better at it than I am. But I think financially, you're more, from a fiduciary responsibility, you're more able to speak to that. I think that people can do whatever they want to with pay as you throw. They can recycle, they can not recycle, they can compost, they can not compost, they can upcycle, they can not upcycle, they can swap shop, they can not swap shop. It's really, it's a lot more freedom of choice, actually.
Well, I just know that the town has voted twice on this issue. Residents do not want a pay-as-you-throw system in Mashpee. And if you think they do, let's put it on a referendum and try again.
Exactly.
A binding vote.
A binding
If it
vote.
happens.
Because I believe people would follow suit with what they've followed suit already. And you say it's going to save the town. Well, you're right. It may save the town money. In fact, Sandwich is making money off pay-as-you-throw. And I think in the end, there's a money issue here, that this is another tax on the individuals of Mashpee. Every time they have to pay for a bag. I want my money for my town to go for things that are tangible and I can see. The waste management station is something tangible that I can see, that my neighbors can see, that we're all paying into. And I am subsidizing other people, like many of you are subsidizing other people that live here in town. But we do that anyway. We do that with education. There's people on my street that have no children in the public schools, and yet they pay their taxes, and part of their taxes go to education.
Well, let's jump. Can we jump
I'm just
back?
I'm just saying, if you're going to change something, you want to see if it changes. Put it on a ballot and let people vote for it, as it's been done before, and let it stick this time.
Yeah. Well, it should, and you raise a good point. But one of the things that bothers me more than anything on tonight's meeting is we have 2 of our board members. Calliope, who you work in the, I'm sorry, Calliope, you work in the industry for the state, which is recycling and things of that nature, and you say yourself that you're not that good at recycling. You're not.
Well, in a household of 4, I get rid of 1, maybe 3/4 full right now. I'm due to go to the dump transfer station soon. I get rid of 1 15-gallon trash bag. I have a cat, I have a dog. I have 2 teenagers, myself and my boyfriend. And so we're 2 17-year-olds. I decline to say how old I am, and I'm not sure. Anyway, so
But you get my point. I mean, here we are with Our job is to educate, and we have Tom on the board here, who's a member, who's been here for 9 months with the rest of us, and we see how we should be recycling and saving and reducing our trash. But we have 2 board members who have both said, well, I could be better. I guess everybody could be better at everything we do,
Well, I could
but...
get rid of one 5 gallon, like a very small tiny bag if I were wicked good at it. But I think getting rid of one 15-gallon bag with 4 people plus 2 pets in the household, I think that's pretty good. Am I criticizing?
Recycling?
Of trash.
Of trash.
So, like, could I unpack it and take out all the old peanut butter jars and, wastewater, my rice and like that, and like every single thing? If I pulled apart my trash, could I do better? Absolutely. Do I have composters going? Absolutely.
Right.
But I'm not willing to unpack the trash.
Well, no, I don't think, but I think we could all do better, but this is what my point is that how do we educate the public and get them to learn how to cut back on our solid waste if we have 2 of our own members that they know how to do it, but yeah, I'm not going to do that this time.
But is that education, Tom, or is that just making a decision that, I mean, Tom, would you say that you're not educated at this point?
Can I say something, Doug?
Sure, I'd love to have your input.
First of all, I never thought that we should ever try to force something down the people of Mashpee's throat.
Right.
I know that the majority of the citizens in Mashpee that are taxpayers absolutely love this town. And they know about our transfer station. They know that our transfer station, we provide more services than any other town on Cape Cod.
Right. Yeah. No,
We
you do.
provide
We
more
do.
services than any town on Cape Cod.
Right.
That's, how many bucks did you
Right.
hear at $119 a sticker?
Right.
Okay.
It-
Now that that's clear, how do we educate? We got people that been around for a long time, still can't do it. So, how do we educate them? Isn't that what this board should be working on?
Well, that's my question. That's what I asked, Rod.
Well, first of all, do you want to respond to? Yes.
Catherine? Yeah, I clearly have still a lot to learn, and I've got to do a lot better personally.
Right.
And the reason that I've always tried to be a responsible waste disposer. I've learned volumes on what can be recycled, what can go into the single stream. I like Calliope's comments because they're pretty similar to me. I will separate and single stream things that are real easy to do, but I am not going to waste my time washing out jelly jars or peanut butter jars and things like that, because frankly, that's a waste of water. And that fills up my septic system, which, is another whole issue that other departments in town are dealing with. But I swear that I will figure out some way to change my household habits with my family, who is staunchly against me, to get as much of that stuff out of there, so I'm putting more stuff into the single stream system and less stuff over the wall.
So if somebody asked you, which nobody did on the survey, and we haven't brought this up, I get rid of one 15-gallon bag, but how many recycling totes do I bring to the transfer station? I bring 4 a week, 4 blue bins. So, and nobody was asked that on this survey. So when you're talking in the beginning about that 90+% of these people said that they recycle, and they may be like you, no offense, but I don't put myself in the same category as you, because I do rinse out the jelly jars. Peanut butter is a real pain in the ass, but jelly
I didn't mean to,
It's easy. But anywho, like
I wash out cat food cans.
how much you recycle? I think 4 recycling bins a week speaks to the volume
Yeah.
that I could be throwing away.
And
I could be throwing away 2 30-gallon. I have a teenage girl; she's a consumer. I could be throwing away a ton of waste, literally. And, but I throw away 4 recycling of those blue bins. I don't know what the capacity is for those a week.
Yeah, that's probably 10 gallons, anyway.
I mean, like, so you could see that, like, if
Yeah, no, that's a great question. It's too bad that we didn't think
I
to,
wanted to pay to throw that away, and I didn't want things to change, and that would be cool, I could do
Yeah.
that. You know, if I wanted to ching my way to the transfer station by throwing away commodity items and things that are made
Yeah.
from
No, it's a
petroleum
good-
products and glass.
it's a good point. And that's, I mean, that's really all I've got to do in my house is get a couple of separate containers that I can put the water bottles and the easily disposable things, milk and juice cartons and,
Things that are actually not, you're not allowed to throw away.
Rich, you have something?
now,
you'd like to add?
and I've got to go down the list and make sure that I know exactly what can go in there and get them in there.
Things that are banned
Is it-
from people in the trash.
So it's a learning process. As far as the financial side of it goes, the, overall, we've got a contract, a long-term contract with small bumps with ABC, going out 10 years. And, now that company is in the process of developing a facility to separate all waste. And they're going to charge us for all waste. If the price of transporting that waste and the tonnage goes up, then the town is going to be responsible for paying it, and the town is subsidizing, to a certain degree, the process, and the permit holders, the permit purchasers that are run around 4,000 are going to pay their fair share. No matter whatever the price increase is, more of the burden is going to go on them than on the town. Now, the towns actually have a responsibility to provide the service for the household in town. Historically, most towns have, but over the course of probably the last 20 years or so, as recycling has come in and fees have gone up, towns have looked for ways to save money for the town overall. As a member of the Finance Committee, we're responsible for looking at that and see what the impact is on the homeowners, what the impact is on the overall, the complete town in terms of the tax rate. And actually, the tax rate is, we don't see a way that the actual tax rate can be changed significantly by the cost of our waste disposal out there. For every $50,000 in cost that is added to the town's budget, it changes the tax rate by 1 penny. So are we at $200,000 that we're subsidizing the transfer station?
Last year, the town accountant told me it was $116,000. Right.
116, I don't have the budget
So it'd be
numbers
2 cents.
for this year, so it's 2 cents. If it goes to 200,000, it's 4 cents.
That would be right.
So, as far as saving money on the tax rate, it's not a big deal. But as far as getting that out of the budget, there aren't that many opportunities that we see as a town where we can save a significant amount of money.
And then
$200,000.
reduce the taxes by that amount?
It's not going to reduce the taxes by an awful lot of money individually for every homeowner, but it's, think of any other service that's provided by the town or any other department that's in the town where you can trim that amount of money out of the budget.
And where's that?
Are we talking 10 cents?
Where can you save $200,000 in In
any
to-
of the other.
I mean, does,
In
you're
town services.
You're reducing the taxes by $200,000.
You're reducing the budget of the town, the expenditures that the town is making by $200,000. And you can do it in one fell swoop.
And you think that the finance committee would reduce taxes by that amount? Is that what they're talking about?
I'm saying you got to look at it in terms of dollars and dollars
Yeah, that's what I'm
only.
trying to look at, dollars
Because-
only.
Because if you look at it in terms of the tax rate, even the $200,000 that you could pull out of the town's expenditures annually by not subsidizing the transfer station any longer and putting the whole burden on the users, making the users pay
Make it an enterprise system.
a complete 100% enterprise system where the permit purchasers support the whole thing, just like the kids club and just like the waterways.
So if I can just jump in for 1 minute. So if the decision were to make the transfer station an enterprise, it's actually, you'd be pulling the entire transfer station budget out, which is 800.
800.
800,000,
Right.
Okay, which is 16 cents on the tax rate.
Right.
If you want to look at, 16 cents is a significant reduction in the tax rate. If that was the total
It is. It's
savings
eight-
to go to
that's what it was. I think it was
enterprise.
8
And if
something.
you want to have that discussion, there's another learning opportunity for the residents of the town to understand the financial side of the operation and what we're trying to accomplish.
Right.
16 cents on the tax bill might not mean that much to a lot of people. Could mean an awful lot to a number of people. And that would change people's attitude towards how the transfer station functions.
My problem with that is, and I understand where you're coming, and I don't have a problem with an enterprise system. With the transfer station as it currently operates, there are a lot of services that are for free. Currently, people are allowed to recycle at no cost, other than the fact that they're residents of Mashpee and it's included in their bill, in their taxes. They can bring their grass clippings, their leaves, their brush. They use the backside of the transfer station. They're able to bring their bulk waste and get rid of that for basically just the cost of the item. They don't support the operation of the transfer station. They're able to pick up loam in the spring or bark mulch in the spring for the beautification of their lawns and yards. So there are a lot of free services that are available to the residents. And if they bought a weekly pass to bring some of their trash to the transfer station, that the transfer station is open for that purpose. So there's a benefit, and they don't pay for basically the operational costs. Right now, our taxes pay for the operational costs, I think, for the most part. And and I don't have a real problem with an enterprise system. I think it's doable. I don't think we're that far out from it, to be perfectly honest with you. But
Yeah.
you do lose services. I mean, to the residents, they would have to buy similar to the town of Sandwich, this ticket fee is $60 just to get in the gate. That's what it pays you to get in the gate
Right.
for a year. And so you can recycle, there's no dollar fee for your recycling, that is not a cost, but everything else is a cost. You pay for every other use of that transfer station.
Right.
That extra $140-something they pay, besides that $65 that they pay for their blue bags.
Yes,
At 2 bags per week.
yes.
That's a lot of money.
Right. But that's how it works, and but it's certainly doable, and I think a way to go there is a lot of our bulk waste, it wouldn't be at the minimal fee, which is the cost of disposal. I know mattresses is a big issue right now in the town of Mashpee, and for a lot of towns, not just Mashpee. But I think it's doable. I don't think we're that far away. If that were the major problem with the issue of the transfer station because of the money from the general fund, I think we can make that work within reason. I don't think we could jump to it overnight, but I think we could do it in steps over a couple of years. And make it a situation that works for all of us. And I'd love to see that happen, because I think Mashpee has always been a leader, in a number of issues. Mashpee is very unique. We live in a great town. We have money in the bank. We're doing things right. And largely it has to do with our department heads that make use of what they have in a very, very financially sound way, and it's to the benefit of the residents of Mashpee. But I think that we have to think long and hard which way we want to go. Rich?
Yeah, just a couple of observations based on the comments that have been made. Nothing is free. All of the costs that are associated with the transfer station cost. I think the fact that we're subsidizing it, certainly from the tax base that we've already described, but again, back to the fact that we're subsidizing all of the folks who don't recycle or who don't attempt to recycle or recycle less than those that do. That's a subsidy. Gentleman on my left pointed out the fact that we're subsidizing our children. I would draw a distinction between the subsidies that we provide in our public education to educate our children as a whole is a far different thing than the commodity of trash that we are subsidizing now. Trash is much more like electricity, much more like water. It's a commodity, and it's something that we are trying to control the use of. We charge a rate for electricity. If you use more electricity, you pay a little bit more. I don't think anyone would argue that that's inappropriate. Same with water. If you use more water than someone else, you should pay more. If you produce more trash than somebody else, shouldn't you pay a little bit more than the person who is recycling, working hard? I would beg to differ with Calliope's observation about her recycling skills. She's recycling at a huge rate. If the rest of the community recycled at the same rate she did, we wouldn't have one of the lowest recycling rates of all of the Cape communities. No one under a unit-based or pay-as-you-throw system is being forced to recycle. Indeed, you have the freedom not to recycle. The only thing it requires is that the people who recycle not have to subsidize those of you who don't want to recycle. I wouldn't deem to think it appropriate in any way that I should tell someone to recycle. But how could anyone say to me that I, as a recycler, or Calliope as a recycler, or anybody else in this town that works hard to recycle, should have to pay the disposal fees of people who don't want to recycle? There's just no logic to it.
When's the last time you had to recycle diapers?
I recycle everything right now. I don't have
Can't
children right
recycle
now.
diapers.
Well, look at your demographics. How many families
looking
do
at
we
the
have?
families
And that's
in
the
this
case.
town.
And people in Sandwich, on average, are not disposing of 2 bags. You mischaracterize Sandwich. We've had Paul Tilton here. We know what they're doing in Sandwich,
I
and
hope
they're
we
not.
don't become sandwich.
Well, you're obviously entitled to your opinion. But if our goal and our charge is to recommend ways to reduce trash, increase recycling in the most equitable way we can, we know that folks are frightened of change. We know that people have expressed in previous plebiscites opposition to what they understand the pay-as-you-throw system to be. I would argue, and it may come to the point where we'll make another effort and we'll have a binding question on it. And if we're able to educate people, and if people can understand how the system works, and if they can hear from people in communities that have pay-as-you-throw, as I've mentioned, there are over 140 in Massachusetts, invariably they continue with the system. It's because these systems work. It's a way to reduce our trash by 40%, saving our ratepayers money. How we can reject that out of hand after we've heard good information from a community that has it, just because we don't quite understand it or we think we'll have to pay more, invariably in towns that have pay-as-you-throw, they are paying less than before. So, we talk a great deal about, how we're trying to be responsive to the concerns of the folks of Mashpee, and of course we have a wonderful town. I'm not surprised that the majority of people who responded to this survey like the system. They're getting a deal. There's no question about it. But they're getting a deal that is subsidized by the taxpayers at large and subsidized by the recyclers in the town of Mashpee. And I would suggest that that's not the best way to run a transfer station. I would also agree with Tom's observation that an enterprise-funded approach is the way to go. You're seeing communities after community move in that direction in their solid waste divisions because it's the most effective way, the most efficient way to handle solid waste, particularly where you don't have a town-wide curbside program. That's a little bit different. Communities are used to paying for that service out of their taxes. But when you have a transfer station that isn't serving all of the community, it's much more effective and much fairer. Maybe some people don't like the word fair and they don't like the word equity, but if you're trying to develop a system that's fair and equitable, an enterprise-funded system that relies on a unit-based way of measuring your trash is invariably the most effective and the best way to reduce waste. I'll leave it at that.
Thanks, Rich.
Just to interject, you might not want to tell people to recycle, but the DEP has no problem with doing that. There's a state waste ban. Lots of the stuff that people are throwing away, you're not allowed to throw away. It's against the law. And not to get too law-abiding about it, but if you look at the recycling rate, we're throwing away a lot of stuff that the state says you're not allowed to throw away. So maybe Richard or anybody else here doesn't feel comfortable saying you have to recycle. I think that people have a lot of choice here. There's a lot of wiggle room. But the DEP says you do have to recycle. And if waste loads get inspected, leaving our transfer station with visible recyclables, we get fined.
We get fined?
Right now, we're in we have a good faith situation with DEP. They haven't had very many inspectors ripping open bags, looking at the tipping room floor. And right now, I believe our waste is being landfilled because the facility is not being built. So all that recyclable is going back into the ground. But the truth of the matter is DEP is hiring more and more inspectors. And there's only so far we can get away on the good faith efforts and the relationships that our DPW has built with the state enforcement for recycling. There are more and more facilities, towns, etc., that are being inspected. And absolutely, if you look at the list of enforcement that's happened in the first part of this fiscal year, enforcement is increasing and fines are also increasing. And it's DEP, it's I would say like something that's pretty much a priority for them at this point.
So they are fining, you've been fined, Kath, the DPW has been fined?
No, we haven't.
Oh.
Historically, we have not been. We've been exempt from inspections because we do offer such a strong recycling program. That may not necessarily continue in the future, as Calliope
Sure,
said.
if the numbers were to go down substantially or
We're
something.
what they call adopt community. As long as you're adopt community, you're exempt.
Okay.
And all that means is department-approved recycling program that you have in place in the town, such as we have at the transfer station, that people can bring the recyclables, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And that,
But the truth of the matter
You know?
is, the Commonwealth has a zero waste management plan that they want implemented by a certain date in this century. And so their impetus is to reduce to zero waste, never mind whatever it is that we're throwing away
I
now.
don't know how you accomplish that.
Well, that's why they hired inspectors. That's why they say, there's
Zero waste?
There's a state waste ban since 1992 that, that you can't throw waste in glass, metals, and plastics, and people still are doing it. And so they're like, what, we've given you 25 years to learn how to recycle. There's a state waste ban. You're not allowed. It's against the law to throw away some glass, metals, and plastics.
Now I'm going to have a real problem with the styrofoam.
Well,
I won't know what to do with it.
And so the state is saying, this is what we want, and this is how we're going to do it. And the relationships that our DPW has built up have sort of allowed us to operate at at a 22, 25% recycling rate. The truth of the matter is that the DEP wants us to get a higher recycling rate, and they are starting to push back.
But is there ways to do that recycling rate without going to a pay-as-you-throw system?
I wish people would just do the right thing, and we wouldn't have to sit here.
I mean, that really should be our conversation about that. And
I
while
wish people would.
we're at it, I'd like to know, Mr. Chairman, why someone from the recycling committee isn't on this committee?
good question.
I asked Catherine that tonight. I was shocked.
Well, because I don't know, but it was a solid waste committee. Why there wasn't a representative is beyond me. I think
I wish they were here.
some of the members were involved previously, but
I'll be quiet.
Catherine, if I may, we've got a contract now with ABC, the New Bedford Recycling. They do not have a facility at present. They're putting the waste
It's
that
under
they...
construction.
It's
yes.
under construction. Do you have knowledge of what that facility is going to consist of, how it is going to operate, and what it is going to do with the waste that it collects?
Yes.
Could you
And
elaborate on that,
was all
please?
presented to the Board of Selectmen when the decision was made to award the contract to New Bedford Waste Systems Services. So it is a facility that will collect the trash, and it will go through a process where the trash is pelletized into a product which can then be sold to businesses that are approved as a fuel, basically. So it's, I guess, a little bit similar to CMAS, where ultimately it's going to be incinerated, but the idea behind these briquettes is that for these facilities that may purchase them, that it would replace coal or other fuel sources that they're currently using.
So do you understand what the system is, that they bring it in, that's trucked from here to the Rochester facility? It goes down a line. It's hand-picked initially, cans, bottles, plastics, whatever. They pull it all out, hand-picked. Goes to machines as well, so it's fine. So
it's not a MRF, so there will be any big cardboard or things like that will be removed, but otherwise everything will basically go into this processing where it's made into little briquettes.
But it's incinerated.
And then it is sold, those briquettes are sold to facilities that will use that for a fuel source.
But it's incinerated, and the ash is made into a briquette that's compressed,
no,
right?
it's not incinerated.
I thought it was incinerated.
No, because they're basically making a fuel product, so they don't want to burn it first. So it's basically shredded and compressed into these little briquettes. It's like a charcoal briquette. I used to have some samples, and then
Eco-Tac.
right.
Okay.
Is it required to be burned out of state, or
Yes.
can we incinerate it in Massachusetts?
Currently, it is not permitted to be used in Massachusetts. I think New Hampshire, Richard,
Pennsylvania, Ohio.
Pennsylvania, right?
That's where the major contracts have been established so far.
They've been approved to burn them, and like I said, the thought is that people that are businesses that are currently burning coal and generating a lot of pollution from that will use these briquettes instead.
It's a safer fuel. Interesting.
Thank you.
So that's that.
Tom, if I can, I appreciate what everybody's saying here about DEP and everything else like that, but I can sit here and bore you for another 2 days.
Okay.
As far as how DEP is restricting everybody, I'm not going to go down that line. What I'd like to do is let's get back to what we're supposed to be here for tonight.
Yep.
And that's the survey,
Yep.
okay? And one of the things that I really liked in this survey is, we discussed about a bag limit.
Yes.
I think we got some really good information here as far as the number of visits per week, and how many people, because we were talking four or five?
It started at 5.
30 gallon bags.
Right.
I don't think by implementing that tomorrow, we're going to impact a whole heck of a lot of people, to be honest with you.
No, not from
And I
the
think it's
survey.
going to stop what I saw here in the survey, a lot of people commenting of the pickup trucks backed up, dumping barrels, and it seems like every time I go in there, somebody's backed up and they're dumping a whole bunch of stuff out.
We all see it.
And I think that's going to cut that out, because I think a lot of these people, and I know for a fact a couple of them, they're doing everybody in town, or not everybody in town, but all the buddies and
Yeah.
relatives and everything. And,
Yeah.
well, something, again, we're paying for those people.
Yeah, that's
Just
not
like
fair.
you
That's
were
clearly
talking
not fair.
about. You know what I mean? That needs to stop. And I think if we can get back to that, and what we discussed on, I think that's one thing we definitely need to move forward on.
Yeah. I think we all agree with that.
Okay,
one,
on
didn't we?
the number of
5.
bags, because I don't see how it's gonna impact anybody. Right. If we go 4 or 5 bags, and we make it a 30-gallon limit.
Well,
30.
right.
5 30-gallon
Even the
bags.
5 bag, which is what I thought.
we were good against that.
I think you were looking for a 3 bag limit, and I was looking at 5. We thought that if
I said
4.
5 is, you know what, you're not going to get very many repercussions with 5.
No, you're not. And
Is
and
that
5. I'd love
point,
to see
though?
5 enforced, but it's going to stop the pickup trucks who are collecting a neighborhood.
And I guess we would need to, and I'm sorry, Rodney, Your hand. You need to define, I guess, what a bag is, and understand that as every vehicle comes to the gate, the gate attendant is going to have to stop them in order to count the number of bags, which is fine as long as everyone understands that. Some of the comments was, having to do with the gate attendant, which I consider him doing his job, scrutinizing what people are bringing in.
That's not necessarily true, because the only time the gate attendant's going to have a chance to look at that, if he comes out of the gatehouse and actually looks at what goes by him, is in a pickup truck. If you got an SUV or whatever like that, you got the smoke glass or whatever like that, you need to have the people that are per the contract. Somebody's supposed to be at recycling, somebody's supposed to be up in that building 8 hours a day. They're not. Nobody's up there monitoring. I don't know how many times, I don't know, but they're not inside the building.
Right, they need, well, no,
They're not
they're
observing
in
what
the
people are
glass
throwing.
facility.
They're
Right.
not observing people. I don't know how many times they've seen elderly people having a hard time getting their bags or whatever like that, and I'll get out and help somebody or somebody, whatever. There's no assistance up there. The only time you actually see them, oh, well, we got a lawnmower in here, let's work on it. Okay? Trust me, I ran a transfer station, I know what goes on. I know what people do. I know how it can be done and done right.
So,
In enforcement.
so if you
But
come back,
the enforcement is where it's disposed of. If the guy up there in the building goes, he says, hey, okay, the guy with the red pickup truck, last three numbers on the plate, okay? They got radios, I'm sure they can talk to each other. If not, it's a pretty simple, it's a pretty cheap fix.
So we're
Okay?
looking for the
He
5-bag
calls the
limit.
guy, he
The
calls the
five-
guy at the gate. The gate stops him, hey, listen, you owe me for, you threw out 8 bags, it's a 5-bag limit.
And
You got by me, I didn't see you, because even if he's making a cash transaction, somebody's gonna sneak by him.
5 bags, 5 barrels, Bennett, 5.
30-gallon bags, right.
Right.
5 30-gallon bags. Pretty safe. I know you want less than that, but.
I don't think you're going to accomplish much, as you
It's
all
the
have
pickup
said.
truck that I think we're looking at, and it's not the bags, it's the sticker. And that's what I see.
I'll load it.
Rod?
Right.
One of the committee's goals that were established back in March of 2015 was to more effectively educate, and I think we've beaten that to the extent that I'm not so sure that education is going to be enhanced at this point as much as compliance. And to obtain compliance, I think there has to be some type of accountability or consequences attached. And one of the other goals was to provide equity for the users, and then the third goal was to reduce trash and increase recycling. I guess we're now focused on the number of bags at the transfer station, but I think in order to ensure compliance with what you were just mentioning, we're going to have to think maybe outside of the box. And I'm not certainly suggesting that there's been any issues with the attendant, but possibly have a camera right there at the attendant's gate or shed, so that material is retrievable. So that if there are any questions as to who did what and when, within a 30-day period, that information
Retrievable. Yeah.
can be retrieved. And we can see on such and such a date at such and such a time whether or not there was a problem. And quite frankly, in regards to the financial issue, that's short money. Buying a camera that is going to serve a dual purpose. One is to ensure that the person that comes in has the sticker, and then two, you're going to be able to get a read on the plate, and third, you're going to be able to generally see if it's a pickup truck, how many bags are in there. Now, if you got the vehicle with the smoked-out windows, or if there's a cab that's enclosed, I don't think we necessarily want to see the trash police right there at the gate, but I think it was a point that was just mentioned. There should be an attendant beyond the gate attendant who is monitoring what that person is doing once he or she gets in there to get rid of the trash.
I agree.
And if all of a sudden they are disposing of more than the maximum allowed, or if they're disposing of items that clearly are in violation of another regulation, then that has to be addressed. And if that means get them on camera and we put another one
In the house.
in the house,
I agree.
then let me tell you something. That is short money compared to arguing about whether or not somebody's actually in compliance or
I
not.
like that. That's a really good
I
idea.
think, and I don't have a problem, we can look at the pricing. You're going to need someone to view the cameras, and I think we need to have the follow-up enforcement. I think to ask or expect that the staff person, because I've been up in that trash building, and I've approached people that are throwing their recycling into the trailer, and I don't think that's a good, safe situation. So if it's recording the violators and then there's a follow-up, whether it's a citation that's issued, a warning that's issued initially with a citation if they're a repeat offender, I think that's the discussion, if that's the direction that
I
the
think it's
committee wants
that's
to
a
go.
great, it's a great idea.
And let me just be clear. I'm not suggesting that somebody sit there and review hours of tapes on a daily basis, although a spot check might not be bad.
Correct.
What I am suggesting is that when there is an issue, like if you give me a call or give the DPW director a call and you say, you know what, on last Saturday, I saw a truck go up there, and I don't even know if he had a sticker, but even if he did, he dumped off 10 bags of trash. Do you know approximately what time it was? It was around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Thank you very much. Have a good day. We don't even need your name. Go back, check it, and once that word gets out, and word will travel fast,
You're right. You're right.
once you attach those consequences, I'm not saying that this is a serious problem, but if it is, it's going to be curtailed. If it's not a serious problem, then maybe it'll act as a deterrent and it will prevent a future problem.
Absolutely. Great
Probably
idea.
stream it live too, actually. I mean, if you're wedded to this idea, because then sort of the community would be the.
Okay, I'm seeing the costs go higher and
No,
higher.
all you need then is the URL and a streaming video. They do that out in conservation lands where, there's just streaming. It's merely a transferring of data. And then, the people that sit around and watch meetings like this could sit at home and watch.
Trash being
Do you think anyone's watching this?
I don't know one person.
I'd like to clarify with Rodney. When you say the cameras, and we said we're making a limit at 5 bags, I heard Catherine back here was talking about recyclables, and I'm going, wait a minute, that's not what I think Rodney's talking about. We were talking about the number of bags
Well, there's
going
already a
in there.
limit.
Because,
Yeah.
okay, so if we're talking bags, if somebody's throwing in a recyclable into that container, as the law is right now, he can do that.
Right.
With a stick. So we're not talking about, oh my God, he threw
Well, why wouldn't
a
we?
plastic container in there, and that should be in recycling, because we haven't done that yet.
Well, there's a state waste ban that says you can't throw that
Yeah,
away.
that's been in since, what, 1990-something?
1992.
Has it been enforced yet?
Well, I mean, that's like saying, well, just because nobody's enforcing a 55-mile-an-hour speed limit, everyone can go 80. and
Well,
nobody's enforcing
no,
it.
it's
That
not
doesn't-
saying that.
Well, whatever, but overall,
we're talking about
so
Well, can I just, there is just clarification as well. There is a 5-bag limit in the express lane. There is no bag limit in the other lane. In fact,
Correct.
it's you can throw as much as you like.
That's right.
Right.
Very nice.
So in that bays, I've seen trucks, I mean, have you seen trucks come up with, 8 or 9 barrels or more bags?
The neighborhood's bags.
Right. And so
Right.
there's not a limit on our dumping.
Right. And that's my, because those are the vehicles.
There should
that
be a
I'm-
limit.
Right. We should have a limit on that. The camera focused on that side of the shed, probably not a bad idea, and one at the gate. But it's all about enforcement. And I think if we set the bag limit, put the cameras there to encourage enforcement, and get people to conform, I think we're walking down the right path, and that's what we're supposed to be doing. This committee,
So
Right.
like if I go 3 times a day
Per
for 5
trip.
bags,
per trip,
then that's cool, but if I bring it all in one trip, then it's not.
per trip, right.
The other thing too is, and again, I have absolutely no reason, no evidence whatsoever to think that anybody up there is doing anything wrong. However, if there was a contractor who wasn't doing what they were supposed to do, and they now know that, and I hate to sound like Big Brother watching, but if they know that it is being monitored and being recorded, well, maybe they'll make sure that they're complying with what it is that we want them to be doing if they're not already.
Right.
And hopefully they are doing it already.
No, I just think it's great, the 5-bag limit. I think that makes all the sense in the world. Like you said, it's not a big investment. It could have huge payback.
Can I go back to the number of bags?
Sure.
As a
Yep.
limit, only because I'm looking at what the survey told us, and, we have a very small number of participants that did 5 bags or more in either the 15-gallon or the 30-gallon range. And so I'm not sure that 5 bags is too high of a limit.
Well, nobody throws it there, so I think if 5 bags, nobody's throwing 5 bags here. But if you had a big weekend party and you had 2 extra bags, or you didn't get there the week before, I don't, you know what I mean? I don't know that.
Or am I to understand that, maybe somebody answered this and said, well, yeah, I throw in 5 15-gallon bags and 2 30-gallon bags.
Or, like I've been told by some of the dump people, that some of my questions that I've asked while down there, they have people that go down to the dump, and yes, they have 5 bags. And they're only going down the dump, though, every 2 weeks. They're not going every week like
Yeah.
a lot of people. So
Well-
that's why I'm thinking that the 5-bag limit, I don't think you're gonna get, well, you might get a little bit of.
I just wanted to open that discussion up a little bit to make sure that, we're trying to implement something that is, I think Rodney wants to enforce fair dumping by making sure that you don't have pickup trucks that are doing the neighborhood 1 sticker for 10 houses or 1 sticker for 5 houses, dumping their stuff on a Saturday, going out.
But I don't think they had filled out the survey.
I'm sure they didn't
I was
fill
going
out
to
the
say,
survey.
yeah, they didn't fill out the
So
survey.
that's,
Rod,
The one thing I would just add is what the director has already mentioned, and that is, we got to make sure that if in fact this is a recommendation of the committee, or at least I would recommend that we recommend,
Sure.
that the bag be defined. Because if we don't define it, then you're going to get somebody getting cute with one of those large construction bags as long as this table and say, I've only got 2 bags, and you got all kinds of
Right. I
junk
think
in
we
there.
can go with the 30-gallon bags.
What's a trash barrel, a normal trash?
Right, a 30-gallon, that's 30 gallons.
30
Yeah.
30 gallon?
5 30-gallons.
And the
That's
big-
Whatever it is.
the big
I
green-
just,
green bags.
right.
I just think
Right.
it has to be
We're not here to
specified.
penalize families with 3 kids, I mean, that they fill up quick,
And
even if they're recycling.
And I think as far as enforcement at the transfer station, either the attendant or the gate attendant, I mean, it's, what I used to tell my guys over at Barnstable, common sense, okay? If somebody comes in and they've got 6 or they got 8 little white bags, don't charge them extra for the bags. That volume fits into the 5 gallon, you know what I mean?
30-gallon
You know,
bags
so, I
are
mean, there
equal.
has to be a little bit of leeway there, but as long as they use common sense, I don't think nobody's gonna say
That
nothing,
makes
nobody's
sense.
gonna
So when we
complain.
write it, it'll be 5 30-gallon bags.
But you're right, as long as we define that, and then the direction to the people that are doing enforcement, use some common sense when
And
you're
then
looking
we'll
at this.
define common sense.
Yeah,
Now we're in trouble. So,
Doing more than 5 trash cans, and that's why I'd like to.
that's what we're looking to avoid. That's, eliminate that.
Trash can, if you're doing more than 5,
You got a business going, right.
Oh, absolutely.
something's very wrong.
All right,
So we're in agreement that a bag limit
right,
should be
right,
implemented
right.
on it.
So that's what we're trying to
Or
do. So
recommended.
let's try to.
Recommended.
But I guess that's not on our agenda. The
Right.
agenda
Right,
was
that would be a
only-
carryover. So why don't we bring this
I
up?
just wanted to get back to this, and bring that up as far as, that's why I opened up the whole number of bags again.
And
You know,
I
we're
think
getting
it
back
would
to
be
the
interesting to
survey.
go back to when we were looking at the survey, to see if the Survey Monkey can kind of give us an indication on, how many, people were bringing how many bags per trip. Because, again, a bag limit is per trip. As Calliope said, that's not going to prevent her from
Going 5 times.
going in the morning and picking up,
Right.
her
But it doesn't make it
immediate-
easy for her either. And if something's out of the ordinary, that's where the gate attendant or the camera would show up and.
But again, then you need to address that.
Well, exactly.
So
And I
there
think
has to
that
be the
enforcement is a large part of
So
this.
if you're going to say, we're going to limit the number of trips.
Right.
Or something like that, I mean, that's, again, it has to be in writing. Just because a pickup goes in.
I think we have to have a clear policy on it,
10 times a
absolutely.
day, there's nothing in our rules and regulations that
Why don't we
prevents
try
them
to
from doing
come up with
that.
some wording on that? Why don't we, rather than get into the further discussion on this, I think we've gone over the survey pretty well.
Can I just interject one thing,
Sure.
Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
I would, on the minutes from the 8th of July, we discussed the issue of bag limitation. And it was said that issue would be tabled until we got the survey back. So we've gotten the survey back, we've discussed it. I don't know why we can't entertain a motion for that, Mr. Chairman.
Because it's not on the
Well, it's
agenda.
not in the agenda. We could have carried it forward.
Okay.
Rather than get into a problem with it, why don't we just hold it off? I think we've had enough conversation on it. And so we've discussed it as to the end of the survey. I don't think we're out of line with that. So why don't we carry that forward to the next meeting? It'll be on the agenda the next meeting, and come up with some recommendations by the board.
Cameras, can you put that on the next?
And the cameras as well, so we'll go look at the cameras.
Is a recommendation.
Bag limitation, for those recommendations. And are there any further questions on the survey?
I think it's gonna give us all a chance to go over how many did you say there were? 1,000,
1,200?
1,200 or whatever like that?
500.
You know what I mean?
500.
44.
No, and maybe everybody come up with some ideas or whatever like that, and then that can be another thing that we can discuss in the next one.
Yeah,
There were a lot of good comments.
I looked at them, most of them were 2 or 3 comments, every other, except for 2 or 3, were how the actual operation of the facility was. The convenience or whatever was not the majority, very few of them were comments on what we should do in the future for our solid waste.
If I don't.
It's operational.
I don't know if we can, because I don't think anybody here really knows how the Survey Monkey can be used or whatever, but I think it would be beneficial if, like on the comments, if there's a majority of like, if there's like, say, 384 comments all centered around one suggestion, could the monkey pull that out? I don't know. Is that a question for Tom?
See if we can do
Or,
that.
you know what I mean? Because that would be beneficial to us next time. I mean, if it can be done. I'm just saying, till our next meeting,
Okay.
we can ask that question, and if it could be,
See if we can get that,
Yeah.
Gene.
Honestly, there's only 2 lengthy pages of comments. One was like 117 comments, and then the final question was 544.
Right.
Any one of us could take it
Do it.
and
Within a couple of
tally
hours, right?
what they were about and say, okay, the key
Okay,
word
well,
on this was
Monkey could do it, then
satisfactory
maybe
management.
some of us could do it.
Monkeys can do it, we could do it, right? There you go.
Yeah, if it can be done automatically in the word search or something.
Okay, so
then
we got that,
fine.
right? We covered that. I'm just looking at the clock. I think we've pretty much covered everything we need to. Rod, you have one more thing to add?
Just a question, Glenn. What kind of info are you looking to have pulled out on the Survey Monkey?
On the comments, like say if there is a comment that said, people want to be open seven days a week, or longer hours, if there's a way to pull that out and say, okay, X amount of number of people made this comment.
I would assume there's a way to search that and retrieve it, but I think we got to just...
read it because the comments...
Or like okay, X amount of people want pay-as-you-throw, X amount of people said they didn't want it.
Okay.
That's
That
maybe a
was
little bit
not
more
the,
definitive.
that was not the
but-
intent of that question.
No, it wasn't.
So,
Because like I said, whichever way we go, whichever way the town goes, pay-as-you-throw or whatever like that, I think this was very good information for the operation of the transfer
Right, but
station. is
depends
what we
how you-
wanted.
all right, I'll go with that. If you need the information, I don't know if that's what we're looking for out of this. So,
To me, it's not that I needed it, it was a suggestion if the tool that we're using to do this, if that could be extracted out, if not,
what wasn't the intended use of the question?
no, not pay-as-you-throw, any recommendation that the people had on the survey in the comments.
What their comments were? You're just
Yeah.
looking at some of the most of the comments. Okay, all right, I got you.
You know what I mean? It's just a question. If it can be, it can't be. It's.
And are we beyond the point where you would want Zero Waste to come in to make any kind of a presentation? Or,
SDP
Check-
did come to
or-
one of our meetings, and they're the representation, they're the MAC, the Municipal Assistance Coordinator, so they're the emissary, if you will, of the DEP, and Dave Quinn did speak to this group about the mission of DEP and the benefits of reducing the solid waste load.
okay. And I know I'm a Johnny-come-lately to the committee, so I just wanted to make sure that,
Right.
He lives close by, he probably wouldn't mind coming again.
And the thing is, and Rich brought this up. I mean, he said, I think that the higher recycling rate, we're closer to 35 to 40%, and I think we're at 25%, roughly 25%, 23, 25%. We're only 10% away from being close to that, the bottom number of the highest communities. I don't think we're doing not bad. We just need to educate
okay.
a little bit more, a little better. That's all.
I might
Because
have misinterpreted what you said, and Richard said that he clarified. Did you mean the company that makes the garbage
right,
bags?
yeah, you did, yeah.
I apologize.
Yeah. Because I could have them come in, I could have Charlie Sumner come in, I could have anybody come in that you want to listen to or feel would be helpful to provide any greater perspective. But if we're moving forward with what has been discussed here, then
Well, I think that the recommendations that we've discussed tonight and bring forward in the future, I think will be very helpful. I think we're on the right track, I honestly do. I don't know that zero waste could hurt. I don't know if we're too far along to start over again for zero waste. I certainly don't want to start all over again as a committee. What do you, I think we're a little
I think people are looking for some action from this committee.
I am too. I think that we've been in this, like you say, since March till it's December now. It's near the end of September rather, so it's time to move forward.
I did bring it up when you weren't here, Rodney, and I got shot down by Joyce and Catherine about the dual system. I feel this way, and I've talked to an awful lot of residents, and I've brought that up to this committee many, many times. That the residents that I know, I'm saying I spoke for the better part of them, was 75%, didn't want anything to change. They liked it just the way it is. We have another set, I'm going to say 25%, that want pay-as-you-throw. Being on this committee, and okay, now my job is to try to find a way to reduce trash. and cost to the town. I suggested to Joyce and to Catherine
To the committee.
and to the committee, okay,
So I don't believe that we were the only two that spoke against it.
anyway, I'm not gonna argue with that. That it would be very easy to set up a dual system, meaning that the people that want pay-as-you-throw, we'll give them to them. Pay-as-you-throw, you get it, you buy your bags. You do the sandwich thing or whatever. And the people that want status quo, they pay their sticker and they do the status quo is what they're doing today. What was brought up to me was that, no, we can't do that because it costs too much money. I came up with a plan. Pictures and everything. How we could do it. I don't know what happened to that plan, but I never heard it since. If the committee would like to talk about that again, I'd be happy to.
Yeah, you have those plans, you must have the plans.
I still have them, yeah. And you know what it would take? One person. You don't have to change anything.
And just enforcement, one additional person going into the shed.
One person. Well, you already got two up there now.
No, I mean in the shed where we
In
can
the shed.
bypass it, go around the side.
Yeah. Well, you wouldn't even have to do that. They could actually go right through. I redesigned that. They could actually go right through, and if we're gonna have cameras there,
So let me ask you just for clarification.
Yeah.
If I wanted to participate in what you're describing, would I pay a lower sticker fee?
if you are paying pay-as-you-throw, you're doing the same thing sandwiches. You're going through that same gate.
Yeah.
You're taking your blue bag, green bag, whatever bag you decide,
And the lowest sticker fee.
and the lowest sticker fee, but you paid for that bag, and you're putting it in the same dumpster as everybody else's.
But if
The only
I'm
difference is you have a different sticker.
a less expensive sticker. I
Yeah.
mean, that's the whole point of it.
And you're getting
That's
your
what he's
way,
saying.
because you want to do the pay-as-you-throw. That Mashpee resident is happy because they've been pushing for pay-as-you-throw.
Yeah.
The other residents that don't want pay-as-you-throw, they're gonna get that other sticker,
And they'll be paying more for their sticker.
and they'll be paying more for their sticker. And they're gonna throw their trash in that same dumpster that's gonna go to the same place. We don't have to change anything.
Well, I think, and believe me, personally, I wouldn't be opposed to that. I think the challenge, however, and Catherine did speak to it, is that in terms of the overall cost of the system, if you're providing a system that allows people who are participating in the pay-as-you-throw to pay less, the costs are going to increase on those who are not recycling and those who are producing more waste. In addition, you're going to have a lot of self-selecting going on there, so you are going to have the recyclers participate in the program, and those who aren't, and they're going to be paying more.
Very
And it's
good
going to be
point.
fairly
Which brings-
substantially more. And that's sort of what pay-as-you-throw is, actually.
Which brings us to what we've been talking about for months, educating the people. Now, if the person that's recycling and doing the pay-as-you-throw is saving a whole lot of money and the next door neighbor isn't, don't you think that next door neighbor is going to catch on to that?
Yeah, and you could also achieve your system if you
No.
didn't do stickers and didn't do special bags. It's not as effective. For example, if we literally just charged on a per bag basis. So I produce one bag, I pay a certain amount. If you produce more bags, you pay more. That's sort of what you're describing, isn't it?
Have you heard this town speak yet?
No, you're not missing. You're missing my point. I'm trying to get a handle on what it is you're really saying. Because if you're saying that you want to allow people to pay less if they recycle, then that by definition means people who don't recycle are going to be paying more. Sort of the same thing as if I bring in one bag, I'm only paying a certain amount of money.
Why are you confused? It's very simple. It's very simple. If I'm paying $119 for my sticker that happens to be green, and I go through the gate, and I throw my up to five bags into the dumpster or whatever, and of course I do recycle, by the way. That's it.
But
End
my
of
point
story.
is your sticker is going to be a hell of a lot higher than $119. That's my point.
If you are a pay-as-you-throw customer, what do you care what my sticker is?
No, I don't care as long as it completely funds the system. And my point is, you're assuming that you're going to be able to get the same kind of benefits as you presently have, which is a low subsidized sticker. You're not going to be able to have a sticker that's only $119. Your sticker is going to be a hell of a lot higher in order to fund the system fully. I mean, if we did the math, we'd see that.
Well, we already did the math with the sandwich system. And we already figured out that sandwich is paying $65, and they're two bags a week, or whatever they say.
Do we want to put a dual system on the next agenda?
No, let's talk about it again. I mean, I'd like to talk about it again.
I think that's the question. I
I'd
don't
rather
think
do it than not, because it's a step in the right direction, I think, as far as,
So if
Making the people
I,
happy.
Let's
I
do
would-
that.
I would
Let's-
ask if.
We don't have any information here.
can we move that to the next?
Right, let's put it on the next agenda, so we'll
Agenda.
talk about a dual pay throw program. We'll talk about the bag limit, and we'll
The
talk
cameras.
about the cameras.
Enterprise fund, you were interested in that as well?
I think that's going to be a little too much. The way things are going, they seem to go a little long.
Well, that
got all
might,
that?
that's the actual sticker price for a dual system.
Well, the bag limit should go pretty quickly. The cameras should go pretty quickly. I'm hoping we've done most of this discussion here. So if we the dual pay potential of an enterprise fund, it may be similar to what we need to be talking about. Those two will align themselves.
We're gonna have real costs of what.
I guess through you, can Wayne provide you with information so that
Yes,
we can
and I
have
will
that
make sure it
before the
comes into
meeting?
either Tom and Rod will get, and we can get that
If we
prepared.
can get it well before, just because I do want to put together some of the costs associated with the dual system for
Right.
discussion.
If you can pass that to me,
Right.
I'll pass it to the director,
Right,
and
that's it, right.
whatever you need, you will be provided with.
Right, we'll work together, we'll try to get everything so that we're very functional when we come in next time. Now, maybe the first two issues we will address will be the bags and the camera system, and I think that should go, I think everybody's in favor of that. We can move that along, and then we'll get right into the meat of the matter on the other issues.
What's your date for the next meeting, Mr. Chair?
Good question. Next month, I'm out between the 7th and the 16th, and I have my meeting is on the following Monday night, so maybe we
Our
can do
meeting.
it. Right, our meeting, right. So if we can do it on
a
a...
camera opportunity as well. I think it's helpful. We're being televised now.
Yes, we are.
I would urge that we continue to do whatever we need to do to be televised.
Well, that's my intent. To take it off was not my intent, but to keep it on is. So,
Well, for October, I had checked with the town clerk's office, and for October, the only Monday was October 26th. And I put a hold on that.
does that work for everybody? I don't think I have a conflict on the 26th.
It's scary.
Does that work for October 26th, 6 o'clock?
So we're all right.
I may be in Florida.
Uh-huh.
There may be a school function.
However, I can do this. If I am, I will provide you with all the information.
I need that, I guess we need that well before the 26th.
And the town allows for
Yeah, I'm sure.
Skyping, so if you wanted to FaceTime or Skype, you're able to do that. The
Yeah.
selectmen voted to allow you to attend the
Right.
meeting electronically, so. if
Right,
wanted
you can.
We'll
phone
put you right there,
communicate.
Wayne.
It worked out fine. We did it last Monday.
It worked
was-
fine.
It was very good.
Sure you want to hear me?
Yeah. Selectman Cotton said he heard everything.
Oh, it was perfect, more than he needed to. So,
Oh, you know that.
You heard that too.
Now, if you wanted it other than a Monday, and the reason I started with the Monday is because
Well, I
you
think,
folks
I thought we just said the 26th. Is everybody okay with the 26th?
I am.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay,
So we're good with the 26th,
all right, 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock. And everybody's fine with with what we have? Do we miss anything for next meeting? Everyone's good? Nothing to
Bags,
discuss?
cameras, dual.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make
So
a motion
moved to
to
adjourn.
delete.
Second.
Adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
All right, Glenn, you made the motion?
Yeah.